What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Gate 7 International, your number one English source for all things Olympiacos. By the fans, for the fans. We've got big news today. 26-year-old Spanish winger Sergi Canos is in Greece to sign for Olympiakos. He arrived in Greece today. He's set to complete his move from Brentford. And Olympiakos fans are dying to learn more about Canos. What's he like as a player? Is it a transfer? Is it a loan? Lots of questions. We have the answers and the insights for you. We spoke today with a British journalist from SkySports following Brentford to learn more about our new signing. Check it out. But before we get to the interview, don't forget to leave us a like, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell for more content and get your Olympiacos news as it comes in. Without further ado, let's go straight to the interview now. And here we are with a special guest. We've got Dan Long here with us. He's a journalist at Sky and a freelance journalist following Brentford. Dan Long, how are you doing? It's really great to have you on the show.
I'm doing really well. Thanks a lot for asking me on, guys. Really appreciate it.
We appreciate you coming, Dan. Thank you very much.
No problem at all.
Right, Dan. Olympiakos hasn't been looking for a winger for a long time. Haven't had a good one, I can say, since Daniel Pedence. Is that fair to say, Costa? Since we sold Daniel Pedence, we've been looking for a winger like crazy. Nothing's really worked out. We tried a couple of people from England more recently. Yeah. Josh Bowler came from from Nottingham Forest. Didn't really work out. He's gone back to the Championship. He's back at Blackpool. We tried Conrad de la Fuente from Marseille. He didn't work either. Gonzalo Avila came in the summer. I'm saying like transfers from England haven't worked out recently. Like he's gone to Ludogorets, and the Philip Zinkernagel as well. He's a player that can play on the wing. We signed him from Watford for 2.5 million, and now he's in Standard Liège in Belgium, and now we've got Sergi Canos, who came out of nowhere. Olympiakos were hot on the chase, trying to sign Florian Thauvin, the former Marseille winger. Poor man Arjen Robben, for those of you that remember Arjen Robben. But anyway, I want to, like, Olympiakos fans are really dying to learn more about Sergi Canos. So I'm just going to ask you a really open-ended question. Like, just tell us about Sergi Canos, like what he's all about. Give us your perspective and your insights into this player.
Yeah, so Sergi came to Brentford as I think he was 18 back in 2015 from Liverpool. I think people were struck initially by the passion of the guy. He grew to his love for the club grew straight away, and he had a great first season. I think he scored 7 goals in 40 appearances. I'm not sure on assists that year, but he was unlike anything that we'd seen before. He had the passion, he had the drive. He was just so different to other footballers. I don't know. It was just a breath of fresh air, really. He went back to Liverpool, made his Premier League debut that year. And then, strange one, we wanted him back in the summer of 2016 it was. And he went to Norwich for, I think, about 3 million. Went to Norwich and just did not get a look in at all. So then he had a terrible 6 months there. Came to Brentford and eventually, I think it was about 2.5, 3 million. Again, probably about 6 months after leaving Norwich. And just, again, endeared himself. I think he signed a 5-year deal initially. Endeared himself to the club. So the fans, they just fell in love with him. He played, I think it's 2 or 3 seasons, and then he suffered a serious knee injury, which kept him out for a while. And he did struggle to come back from that until probably 2 or 3 seasons ago now. He obviously, Brentford fans know, well, the world saw him score that goal on the first night of the Premier League season, our first ever Premier League game. He wrote himself in history, and it's not been great for him since then. But it would be sad, very sad to see him go. But he's unlike anything I've seen in terms of just not necessarily a player, but a person. Just one in a, sounds so cliche, but 1 in a million sort of thing.
We're hearing a lot of different versions in Greece about this imminent deal. We haven't heard much about the type of contracts that Sergi Canos is going to sign. We don't know how many years. There has been a version. There has been some saying that it's going to be a loan deal, which doesn't really make a lot of sense because his contract at Brentford runs out. But I heard that there's an option to extend for another year. What do you know about the specifics about Canos's contract with Olympiakos?
As far as I'm aware, it would be a permanent deal. He's played 83 minutes of football this season, and for a player that's, I think he's 26 in a couple of days' time, but he needs regular football. He's approaching the sort of peak physical years of his career. I don't see that Brentford would. I just don't see a loan deal happening. I think it's going to be a permanent deal. He needs to go and make somewhere his home again, kind of thing. I just don't think. Permanent. It's permanent for me.
What is Sergi Canos' favourite or favoured position? Like where is he best deployed on the field?
Favoured is right wing, on the right wing, sort of as a right forward, right wing sort of thing. But it's interesting because he hasn't played there for a fair amount of time. So he played there before. He was playing there before we were promoted, before he was injured and things like that. Then 2020, I think it was, Saïd Benrahma got sold to West Ham, and we didn't bring in sort of a ready-made left wing replacement. So he spent most of that year on the left. Then I can't remember exactly why. Henrik Dalsgaard left. So we didn't bring in a right back for the first Premier League season. So Dalsgaard left after we were promoted. So Sergi stepped up and played. We played sort of 5 at the back, wing backs, and he stepped up there to play right wing back for the majority of the season. Really, there was one game where he played at Leeds. He sort of played through the middle when Ivan Toney wasn't playing. Scored there, had a really good game actually. And so he's been all over the place, but you do feel sorry for him. And his tweet recently was about kind of thinly veiled dig at sort of the game at Leeds last season was the only time he did play in his favourite position. I think I spoke to him actually in an interview last year, and he said it would take some time to get back to kind of playing at his best out in that right wing, because he had played defensively for so long. So it'd be interesting to see how he does get back up to speed with it if he does play there for Olympiakos.
So this is a question I've been having since the moment I heard about Sergi Canos going to Olympiakos. I mean, I'm looking at his numbers right now, and like you said, he is a winger that didn't get to play much of his position.
Yeah.
In 249 appearances for Brentford across all competitions throughout his entire stint, that's both stints with Brentford, he amassed 36 goals and 33 assists. Not great numbers, but if you consider the fact that he didn't often play in his favorite position, which is a winger. He mostly had to play as a wing back. Sometimes he had to play in midfield as a right midfielder and a left midfielder. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you've got to factor in as well. He had that disjointed sort of 1920 season where it was disrupted by COVID, obviously, anyway, but he was disrupted by that injury, and he played about 15 games that year, but it was so disjointed and he couldn't get up to speed. He's only probably had 2 really good standout seasons at Brentford. There was one in the promotion season when we got promoted to the Premier League. I think it was 9 goals and 10 assists in 50 games, something like that, which that's more like it. It's just that he's not, for one reason or another, it's just not been able to kind of produce that over the 249, and I'm gutted he hasn't got to 250 because I'm a stats man and I would have loved him to get to 250. Doesn't happen very often.
No, but more than 200 appearances for a club, that's special. And I think we were talking just before we came on, and you said he's a type of player that doesn't really is a dying breed.
Yeah.
You really get players that stay with a club for more than a couple of seasons, and by my count, he's been with Brentford like six seasons now, if not more. And you mentioned passion as one of his defining characteristics. It's interesting whenever you sign a player, you go on YouTube and you're like, all right, I don't know the player, so I'm looking at him, and a lot of what I see is player cutting in from the left-hand side and trying to get a shot off. But I want to ask you, like, besides passion, what are the defining traits of this player? Like, is he a playmaker? Is he like a finisher? Is he Spanish, obviously, like formed and trained in La Masia before going to Liverpool? So you obviously thinking, all right, this guy's technically gifted. Like, he's learned his trade at Barcelona. He's grown up in English football, so tactically probably very astute. And you get that understanding from what you're saying. Like, he's a player that he's an attacker. You tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, he's an attacker, but he has the versatility and the tactical awareness to be able to play at right wing back as well. But I leave it to you. Like, what's it about this player? Like, when you see him on the pitch, like, what should Olympiakos fans be expecting to see?
And what kind of players does he need around him?
What kind of player? Yeah. So it's hard to say it without the passion, because that is the kind of overriding thing about Canos. He'll run for everything. He'll chase down balls. He's got the pace, like you say, cutting in off the flanks. He's capable of the spectacular now and again. I remember he scored a hat trick against Cardiff a couple of years back. I think he scored an absolute worldie to kind of finish it off. And I think he's probably become a more rounded player from having those different experiences around the pitch. He can play through the middle. He can play on the wings. He can play at the back. He's become a more rounded player. It's just, we need to. I would like to see him back in that position again on the right, doing what he does best. Because he's 26. We're coming up for 26 now. You wonder how he's going to put everything he's learned together to kind of excel on that right wing. Yeah. I just interested to see how it goes.
The reason why I made that question is because Olympiakos were had a very interesting summer transfer window, bringing Marcelo first and then bringing James Rodriguez. Marcelo has been a failure so far. James has not. James has been very impressive at Olympiakos. So the reason I'm asking is, let's say you have Canos on the right wing. What the Olympiakos manager Mitchell is doing, he's been playing with 3 number 10s behind the striker Cedric Bakambu. He's been playing with James Rodriguez, Pepiel, and Kostas Fortounis. Obviously, one of them has to bite it right now if Canos comes in ready for action, ready to deliver. Because Olympiakos really need a winger, needs that explosiveness, needs someone who's going to break into the wing, who's going to throw in the good cross, a good through ball, the one that can score as well. One of them has to bite it. James has been quite slow this season. He's been clinical. He's been impressive, but he's been quite slow. So how do you reckon a player like Canos can work with a player like James Rodriguez?
God, that's a tough one.
He's been quite slow, James Rodriguez.
Yeah, that is a bit.
He plays behind the attacker. Sometimes he plays on the left. Am I right, Costa? The left wing.
It's kind of hard to say, man, because like we've been playing that formation with the 3 10s behind the striker, and it feels like the manager's just, the instruction is just, all right, guys, you're creative, like do something in the final third, help us to break down the defenses. Because a lot of what happens in the Greek league is, more often than not, we play against teams that park the bus. So we're constantly trying to break down defenses that defend like really compact outside the penalty box. So we don't have a player that can really stretch the pitch effectively. So is that like, is he a player that kind of plays on the byline? Like, will he wait for the ball on the touchline and try and take men like a player one-on-one, or is it like, is he more kind of inside? Does he like to play more inside the field when he's on the right?
The thing that comes to mind when you say that is the goal against Arsenal. I mean, he was on the left-hand side there. I don't know exactly why he was on the left, because he was playing right wing back, but yes, he was like kind of hugging that byline, and oh God, this gives me goosebumps thinking about.
Does he
that
like
time.
to make those kind of diagonal runs like into
Yeah.
the box? And
Yeah, absolutely.
Olympiakos
Hard to put
need
into
that.
words sometimes.
Yeah, Olympiakos need that.
Oh, there you
Yeah.
go. He got a little assist from me on that one.
I would like to kind of take us to that tweet that's been talked
Yeah.
about for Sergi Canos. I feel like the reaction, at least to a great extent, is unfair. What he tweeted was quite recently. Actually, it was last week, if I'm not mistaken. He looked back at that game at Elland Road against Leeds where he scored. It was last season, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And this is what he said about that game. Loved every second of that game. One game of 31 games last season where I got to enjoy playing where I'm supposed to play. Some fans thought that was a dig towards Thomas Frank, the manager, during a season where Brentford they're doing really well. They can punch a ticket to Europe, so they kind of see it as kind of disruptive. I can kind of see both sides of this. I think it's a bit unfair to have a go at him on this one. But the thing is, that kind of tweet, and I do wonder what Costa thinks about that, sounds like the kind of thing that maybe could piss off Olympiakos manager Mitchell, who doesn't really like it when players doubt what he question his methods, especially on social media. But what kind of player is he when he doesn't play? When he doesn't play the minutes he wants to play? Is this something that Olympiakos fans could expect a little more, or is he, other than that tweet, he is a total professional?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, it was so out of character for him. I know you can read into it what you like. People can read into tweets and make their own, spin a whole story sort of thing. I don't think it was as deep as that, but he's never done anything like that. I think that's why people have grown warm to him so much, because he hasn't had the best time all the time. He's not always put in the best performances, but he's never grumbled about it. He's got on with it and carried on. And I think it was out of character. But then you get the haters. God knows why he's got any haters. I really don't know that. But they jump on it, spin a whole story, and then it's become a whole sort of different thing. Thomas Frank played it down when he was questioned on it. I imagine it will have pissed him off to an extent. But yeah, it's totally out of character, and I guess that just shows the level of his how frustrated he actually is that he felt the need to put that out. But again, it may not have been the meaning behind the tweet,
Can I just like follow up on that? So is that the main reason why he's fallen out of favour? So I think, if I'm not mistaken, he played like 34 games last season for Brentford, and this season he's played one. It's like one game the last few months. Like, why? What can you explain that to us? Like, what's behind all of this? I mean, we're talking about a player that's like really endeared by the fans. Club legend. I read a lot on social media today. Like, club legend, this player, Sergi Canos. What happened? Like, why are we where we are today? Like, what?
So, last day of last season, he scored against Leeds, took his shirt off, got booked, and then there was a bit of an altercation, and he got a second booking. I remember being in the press box.
Game? Is this the same game as the tweet?
No. This was Leeds on the final day. That was Leeds in December, sort of December 21. So he came on as a sub against Leeds on the final day, scored, took his top off, got involved in an altercation. I don't know if it may have been Rafinha, and he just got sent off. Like, we were in the press box and we didn't even know it had happened until someone had picked. It was just crazy. But anyway, obviously he had a ban at the start of the season, but he had he was a hamstring injury. out the first couple of months of the season, so that sort of kept him out anyway. And I think that kept him out in the summer, and I think there was probably talk of maybe this is his time to go. Maybe now we can get a fee, because I think a few years back, I think it was Krasnodar in Russia, we're going to buy him for about 7.5 mil, something like that. But you thought it'd be a strange ending, but he could have gone at that point. So, but he didn't. He come back, recovered from the hamstring injury. But by that point, Brentford are sort of motoring, and he's not played. He's played, I think it's 5 Premier League games. He's appeared in 5 Premier League games, 1 cup game, but in the like altogether, he's played 83 minutes, which is after playing that, slotting into that right wing back role last year, you'd I imagine he sort of hoped he'd play more of a role this year. I know we signed Aaron Hickey to play there, and he wasn't going to get the same minutes as he had before, but I think he would have probably wanted a little bit more of a kind of reward for the hard yards that he had put in the year before. But it's not a really deep rooted kind of thing. It's just been building, not playing, and you do understand the frustration, really.
Yeah, the thing is now Olympiakos are 4th in the Greek Super League table, 5 points behind the top. It's very intense and very close against the rivals, who are PAOK, AEK, and Panathinaikos, who are not at all bad this season. They're quite good. They're very competitive. There's playoffs coming up as well in Greece. So this is going to be very intense. And Olympiakos needs someone to step on the pitch like now, immediately. They don't. Greek fans have no patience, but on this occasion, there is even less patience than that. How likely is it that Canos is going to hit the ground running immediately? And how much will his hamstring injury this season going to affect the rest of this campaign and his new life at Olympiakos?
Well, as far as I'm aware, he's fully fit and fully. The hamstring issue isn't so much of an issue anymore. It's just, I guess, those match minutes. He's played 83 minutes, which is just nothing. He's not, as far as I'm aware, he's not really featured for the B team either. So again, it's just training. He must be. He's got to be at an okay level to have featured in those games and things like that. But I feel like he would thrive in. I mean, I don't know Greek football myself, but I can imagine the atmosphere is a great one. Like
intimidating as well.
Yeah, but he is the sort of player that thrives off the atmosphere of a ground. If the fans are with him, he will give it absolutely everything. Regardless of fitness, he'll just go for broke, sort of thing. So I feel like I genuinely do feel like he could thrive in this sort of league and atmosphere and things like that. And yeah, I really do wish him the best and think he could thrive.
You think this is a good opportunity for him to reboot his career? Is that what he's looking for right now, this player, you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't disrespect your club by saying that it's kind of a stepping stone sort of thing. But you see, the one that comes to mind in Greece is Chuba Akpom. I know he's not playing in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Now he's playing at Middlesbrough now, but he went.
Oh, Middlesbrough, yes, you're right.
Middlesbrough, yeah, but he came over to Greece. I think he went on loan initially, then he came over.
He came back on a permanent on PAOK, yes.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And he is absolutely flying at Middlesbrough now. He's Championship top scorer. I know it's not the Premier League, but yeah, there must be something in the water there that's helped. He was a poor player, below average player before he went there, and he's come back something different. So if Sergi Canos is a above average player and he can go over there, yeah, you feel like he could reboot his career, definitely. And he's still so young. Like I said before, he's 26 next week. I think your physical peak is around 27 or something. And this guy's 26 and he's played 250 games. So yeah, I think it's I don't want to say a match made in heaven, but I think there's something there for him.
How did his education, how did his experience at Liverpool and Barcelona help him thrive at Brentford?
Yeah, so there's no better education, is there, obviously, than starting out at Barcelona. I think everyone wants to start there, and then going to Liverpool as well. This doesn't get much better than that. But I think he probably realised that he wasn't. Well, by turning down the contract, he knew he wasn't going to get much of a chance there. So he saw life. It's a bold move to leave a club like Liverpool and then go and sort of forge a career in the lower leagues. But it's paid off for him. He's played in the Premier League. He's scored in the Premier League. Okay, maybe it hasn't gone quite to plan this year. But like I say, he's so young, and there's so much left, so much career left for him. And having all those experiences can only bode well for him.
And this is my last question, actually. Obviously, Canos scored Brentford's first ever Premier League goal against Arsenal in a huge victory last season. Their first game and a huge victory against Arsenal, who are now flying and are said to be very likely to win the Premier League. How much of a role did Canos play in Brentford's promotion to the Premier League? And how much of a role did he play last season in Brentford's successful debut here in the Premier League?
So as I said earlier, sort of that promotion season, 9 goals, 10 assists. So he's averaging a goal involvement almost every other game, sort of thing. So that was a big thing. Obviously, Ivan Toney was massive in the promotion season, but Canos was massive. Equally, not a sort of lesser role, but a big part in that promotion season.
To clarify, that season you're talking about, he played right wing.
Left, I think.
He played on the left.
But
so he played as a winger, and he scored 9 goals with 10 assists.
Yeah. So winger, 9 goals, 10 assists. Then playing right wing back last year, 2 or 3 goals, few assists. He was a big part. He was a big part last season. He probably could have done better defensively, but what can you kind of expect from someone who's never played defensively before? But it all comes down to his passion and things like that. Again, massive. He just got such a great rapport with players, and he's probably a great person to have in the dressing room when things aren't going particularly too well, sort of thing.
It's giving me a little bit nightmares now, because you're talking about Costa. We were talking about this earlier. We've got a couple of players that are not fullbacks.
Mm-hmm.
But we've made one of our wingers, we've turned him into a right back. He's played left back as well. That's Mario Vrusai.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another player, Thanasis Androutsos. Started his career as a striker in the youth team. He played number 10, number 8. A couple of seasons. He went out on loan, played in midfield at Olympiakos. The only position he hasn't played at Olympiakos is centre back and goalkeeper.
Real utility man.
But I really hope that this isn't another one of those, because it really sounds like a player that is like, all right, I want to go to a club and I want to go and play in my position.
Yeah,
I want to rediscover my form. I want to connect with the fan base, build something, reboot my career, score goals, score assists. And stepping stone that you mentioned earlier is I don't find it insulting at all. Perfectly understandable. Like for a lot of players, foreign players in particular, Olympiakos is seen as either a stepping stone to something better, like a top 3, top 4 league, or as a second chance saloon.
Yeah.
And for him, I think it's the latter. It's a second chance saloon for him, a chance to reboot. And from the characteristics that you've explained and told us here, he's a passionate player that wants to, thrives from atmospheres. And believe you me, the atmosphere right now in the Greek league and the context, the competition, it really sets up a almost volcanic kind of experience, ready to erupt. That's the best way I can describe it right now. Olympiakos normally walk the league. It's quite boring. It's quite boring in the league. No, I'm being honest, and I like the fact that it's interesting. It is genuinely interesting. It's a dogfight at the top this year. Panathinaikos were 12 points clear around Christmas time, and now they're 3 points. Is it now? Because they lost today.
3 points.
They
yeah,
lost
that's-
today. It's 3 points, and now Ajax are top with 5-point gap.
Against
And there are 8
Olympiacos, yeah.
games left to the end of the regular season. Then we've got playoffs where we're going to be playing Ajax, Olympiakos, and PAOK, back to
Twice
back.
each.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really tasty, and
Sounds it.
he really needs to be up for it.
Yeah.
Like I said, he has to hit the ground running right now. But I like what I'm hearing because Olympiacos have a history of loving players with passion, even those who don't have the talent to match it. I'm not going to mention names, but the more
mention one. You mentioned one to me earlier, and I think you were bang on.
No. Actually, no. He doesn't fit the description. I was about to mention that name. He doesn't fit the description. I love what I hear what Dan is saying. It sounds positive. There's a lot there in Sergi Canos. Disregarding what I said previously, he reminds me as David Fuster. He reminds me of David Fuster, who was passionate. He was a leader, and he was an amazing player. He was in no way talented. He wasn't like that category I mentioned beforehand. But he sounds a lot like David Fuster, who's also Spanish, mostly played as a number 10, but also could be versatile in the wings and maybe the midfield. That's that's the kind of example I'm having. But like I said, Dan, here in Greece, people love players with a passion. They absolutely love them. So if you feel like he left Brentford on a bit of a sour note, well, he's gonna find life here in Greece.
Oh, I can tell you that he will go for it from from the first minute. You only have to go through his social media. Even when he's not been playing, his tweets just say so much about him as a person. The good tweets, that is. I can guarantee you he will go for it from the word go. I'm really looking forward to seeing how it goes.
Fantastic. Dan, thanks so much for coming on the show and telling us a lot about our new signing, Sergi Canos. So Sergi Canos he's in Greece. We're recording this on Monday, 30th of January. Sergi Canos arrived in Greece at 7:30 local time today, and you saw some pictures earlier. And he should be passing a medical, and he should be announced tomorrow. That's the 31st of January, last day of the transfer window. Dan, before we go, let people know where they can find you, where they can follow you. Here's your chance.
Perfect. You can follow me on Twitter. It's at danlong__, and on Instagram it's Danstagram, DANSTAGRAM_.
Excellent. Thank you so
Big
much
up to
for
Dan Long. Thanks very much, Dan.
No problem at all. Thanks, guys.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. All you need to know about Sergi Canos, delivered to you on a silver platter. If you liked what you saw, what you heard, make sure to hit the like button. You excited about this transfer? Let us know your thoughts. Leave us a comment below. Subscribe to our channel for more content on Olympiakos. Deep dive scout report is coming soon from Ari. He's already digging into the data, watching tape. He's going to give us more insights into our new signing. So make sure to subscribe. Don't miss that. More great things coming from your friends at Gate 7 International. Thanks for watching. See you next time.